The Green Bay Packers defeated the Washington Redskins 20-15 and are currently sitting at the number 2 seed in the NFC. And yet you people still complain? Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you're not a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom. Thank you, 49ers, for beating the Saints. Grossi. And today we'll be breaking down the Packers' win over the Redskins 20-15. But before we do that, I want to do a big shout out and thank you to a brand new Patreon, Jimmy42069, because, you know, why not? A big shout out and thank you to you, Jimmy, and a big shout out and thank you to all the Patreons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. If you like to support me for some cool rewards, check it out. And then also a big shout out and thank you to Hot Mike, who has given us access for you Android users. I know you have been asking that. You can get a code to get into the beta. The link is in the description down below. Just use the code Grossi. That will get you in. iOS users have been enjoying it now for several weeks. It syncs the game sounds with me on the commentary, so you can just mute your TV screen, and it keeps you up to date with what's going on with the game, but you don't have to listen to terrible announcers. So check out Hot Mic in the description down below. Now, let's talk about this. Before we even get to the Packers-Redskins game, the Saints, in a ridiculously crazy good game with the 49ers, lost, meaning that they just had to lose one NFC game. So they have this one against the 49ers, and then they only have one remaining, which is going to be against the Panthers at the very end of the season. And they lost, meaning that the Packers were able to shimmy their way all the way up to the 2nd seed. And if the Packers are able to win out, finishing 13-3, we beat the Saints in their conference record. And so because of that, we are the number 2 seed. And look at that, we got a bye. So obviously we have the Bears next week at home. Then we have the Vikings away in Minnesota. Week 16 on a Monday night game, and then we have the Lions finishing up the regular season in Detroit. So we have back-to-back-to-back divisional games, which I hate when the schedule does this because I feel like they should be spread out more, but this is what it is. This is our reality in front of us. I think it's obtainable that we could get the second round spot. We just can't blow it at this point. And again, we just now have to win 2 out of our next 3 games in order to win the NFC North, and then we would be finishing most likely in the number 3 spot unless the Panthers were able to knock off the Saints in the final week of the season. So it's right in front of us, people. The Packers control their own destiny. You can't have asked for a better scenario at this point. But let's break down the game today and why people are upset, and understandably so. So, only winning by 5 points against the Washington Redskins, who knocked off the Panthers last week, but like the Giants, are a pretty darn terrible team. They have no offense to speak of, and their defense leaves much to be desired. Rodgers, 18 for 28, 195 yards, 1 touchdown. A lot coming out about Rodgers in this game. He missed a bunch of throws to like Graham and Lazard, a little bit behind Sternberger in the end zone. He was under a bunch of pressure, getting sacked 4 times. But then there was also the point of him holding onto the ball because there was no one really getting a whole lot of separation. Yes, again, he did miss those throws, but a lot of times when they're replaying, they're replaying the previous play, like you see that there's like no one open whatsoever. He also got strip sacked as well on a play. Jones, however, oh man, all the complaints to Matt LaFleur of, hey, get Aaron Jones involved. He heard them loud and clear as he rushed 16 times for 134 yards and 1 touchdown, and also was our leading receiver with 6 receptions, 58 yards. So LaFleur is like, here you go. You want more Aaron Jones? Here, you just take it. And look at that. We win games when Aaron Jones gets more involved. Graham, 3 for 49, while Adams was 4 for 41, and Big Bob Tonyan got a touchdown, a 12-yard reception for the TD. Amos, I think, was the star on defense today. Had 1 interception, 6 tackles, and a sack. Guy was all over the field, and like I said before, while the Packers got sacked 4 times, we returned the favor to the Redskins, sacking them 4 times as well. Also, on another note, Tyler Ervin, our new punt returner, we had positive yardage. He returned it 4 times. He averaged 12.8 yards per return. And I feel like I was just like, yes, absolutely. Give this man the Oscar because he did it. We finally have a guy who can actually advance the ball and not fumble it and not call for a fair catch every single time. And it was actually pretty good. I'm not going to lie. The Redskins on their side of the ball, Haskins were 16 for 27, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Peterson, 20 for 76 with 1 touchdown. Geis got injured, and he was taken out of the game and did not return. McLaurin, also 457 for 1 touchdown, was their leading receiver. So we held the Redskins. They really weren't able to do anything offensively. Now at the end, they almost staged a comeback, but the defense was able to take care of it. So the defense, there really wasn't a whole lot, Peterson getting 76 yards against us was obviously a little bit problematic, but for the most part, I was pretty happy with how the defense performed today. But again, you also need to acknowledge they're going against a pretty terrible team. And looking at the scoring summary, in the first quarter, it looked like we were going to blow them out. This was the game that everybody expected. The Packers put up 14 points. The Redskins weren't able to do anything. Then we put up a big old zero burger in the second quarter. Redskins put up 6, and then we just scored 9 points for the rest of the game while the Redskins just scored 6. So obviously, the offense struggled at times, and against a team that people are arguing that we should not have struggled against. And I completely understand that argument, and it leads to frustration. Like you had the Giants last week where it was a really, really close game until the fourth quarter when we ran away with it, and this was a close game down to the very bitter end because we didn't put up a ton of points besides the first quarter. Now, on other notes on the offense, Geronimo Allison, man, oof, just a big oof. Had a big reception, was trying to stay alive. Thankfully, his knee went down because as he continued to go run, he fumbled the ball. So thankfully, he was down for that. And so I feel like with the case with Geronimo Allison, when we're talking about needing receivers, I feel like Gmo might not be on the team. Obviously, he's been hugely disappointing this season. For me, he was supposed to be a breakout star as he was doing wonderful things before he got injured last year. I thought he was going to be the solid number 2 behind Devontae Adams, and that seems to no longer be the case. Now, Lazard, who made a couple plays here and there today. Obviously, last week seemed like the definite number 2 behind Adams. It's just a matter of, I feel like, while I like the balance and that, again, you could throw it a lot to Jones, you could throw it a lot to Devontae, you could throw it to a lot of different people and spread the ball around, which is good. That provides balance. At the same time, I feel like we are missing a strong number 2 at this point. And I think during the offseason, that's definitely going to have to get addressed, that we are going to have to get a receiver for somewhere, whether that's to use first-round capital on him in the draft or that's to go out and actually get a veteran receiver. Now, when we're talking about kind of like these wins that the Packers have been accruing, right, we're sitting at 10-3. And yes, I am very aware that there are huge holes and flaws within this team. But my point is that we're still winning. And if you were to say, hey, would you take with a first-year head coach going 10-3 and being the number 2 seed in week 14. I don't know which Packer fan says no to that. So like Rodgers, for example, came out today and said, it might be ugly at times to some folks, but I wouldn't mind winning ugly all the way to the Super Bowl. And at the end of the day, like that's what it is. Matt LaFleur came out and said, yes, there's things that we need to address. And he said that he caught the end of the 49ers-Saints game, which I feel like is being used in comparison a lot to this, and saying like, hey, can we even compete with those teams? Are those teams in a league of their own? We played the 49ers and just had the floor wiped with us, right? Can we compete with the top teams in the NFC? And when we were putting up against the 49ers, the answer was a very resounding no. We don't know about the Saints. We don't know about the Seahawks. And I feel like the way that we're looking at this, we're looking to see like this consistency, right? Where it's means like, hey, Packers are a good team. The Redskins are a bad team. We should be blowing them out of the water. Giants are a bad team. Packers are a good team. We should be blowing them out of the water. But that's not the case, right? You look at, for example, the Texans who played the Broncos today. The Broncos have been struggling mightily. The Broncos kicked their ass for basically 3.5 quarters and then came away with the win. Like, these are those games that you don't know. Like, that's the whole any given Sunday aspect, that these are pro NFL teams. The Eagles probably thought they were going to wipe the floor with the Dolphins. The Eagles beat us, and then they lost to the Dolphins last week. So when you think about, like, what you're looking at, there's never going to be 100% consistency every single week. And the way that I'm looking at it now is that the record that we're at, we have a chance to get a first-round bye and have at least one home game at Lambeau. That's phenomenal. And you have a team like the Saints. If the Saints wind up finishing number 3 and we finish number 2, and we make the Saints come to us in the divisional round, that would be incredible. Yes, it's going to be very difficult to pull off a win because the Saints are a very good football team. But wouldn't you rather play them at Lambeau? I'm not one to write off the rest of the season or write off the playoffs and be like, well, you know what? We're going to go one and done, or we're just going to get past the wild card round if we go in as the number 3 seed. Like, you have no idea. In 2010, we snuck in as the number 6 seed and we won the Super Bowl. The Giants have snuck in and they've won the Super Bowl. The Steelers have snuck in. Like, all these teams, once you get to the playoffs, it's a brand new season. It doesn't matter what you did in the regular season at all. You get hot at the right time, you go and you can get a Super Bowl. Look at the Eagles who won it a couple years ago with their backup quarterback. So what I'm trying to say to all the Packers Nation out there is I understand and I agree with you. There are flaws on this team. There is a lack of consistency. There's a lack of identity. There's who knows what's going on in the offense, and the defense has its hot and cold days. Yes, 100%. But at the end of the day, we are 10-3, and we are competing for a first-round bye. That's what it's all about, folks. I don't care how the hell we get there. The point is that we get there. And right now, we are in a really good position to get there. And right now, our main focus needs to be the Chicago Bears, which is next week. It's our last home game. Let's wrap that up. Let's go to Minnesota. Then let's go to Detroit. And at the bare minimum, win this division. And at the most, if we win all those games, we got a home game in the divisional round of the playoffs. Can't do much better than that. And until then, yeah, I don't care if we're only beating these teams by 1 point. I don't care if we beat the Bears by 1 point. Because a win is a win in this league. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at Tom Grossi Comedy on all social media. See down below. Check out Patcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out and thank you to all the Patreon members at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.